Okay, we are back on the record. All counsel are present, all jurors are present. Sorry for the delay. It's pretty rare that this happens, but as you can imagine, we have to make sure we have an accurate record of everything that happens in the courtroom. So the court reporter has restarted the machine. Everything appears to be in order. So, Mr. Owens, would you like to call your next witness?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. The people now call Shelley Traa.
All right.
If you would, raise your right hand. You do solemnly state that the testimony you are about to give in the matter now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? If you would, please have a seat at the witness stand. Just make your way around the television in the seat to the right of the judge. And if you would, please state your name and spell your first and last name for the record.
My name is Shelley Traa. That's SHELLEYTRAA.
Thank you.
All right. Good morning, Ms. Traa.
Good morning.
The attorneys have some questions for you. Oh, is that your glass of water?
No.
You can hand it to me. I just want to make sure we don't spill it. And the attorneys have some questions for you. We're going to start first with Mr. Owens. I'm just going to ask that you scoot your seat forward and speak into the microphone, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Traa.
Good morning.
What do you do for a living?
Right now I run a rush cycle studio.
Prior to running the studio that you're currently working at, were you employed by Crunch Fitness?
I was.
How long have you been an employee in the gymnasium industry?
Going on 10 years?
How long did you work for Crunch Fitness?
About 1 year.
As of February of 2019, were you working for Crunch Fitness?
I was.
And what was your role or your job?
I was the fitness manager and the fitness director for our locations.
When you were working at the Crunch Fitness, was that located in Carlsbad, primarily your place of work?
It was.
Is that right off of El Camino Real?
It is.
Now, we're going to discuss an incident that was reported to you involving a woman who we're referring to only as Jane Doe number 5. Are you aware of who I'm referring to?
I am.
Now, when you were working as the fitness manager, was there a point in time where the manager of that location asked you to speak to a person?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Was there a point in time where the manager, Brad Moser, at the location asked you to speak to one of your members?
Yes.
Do you remember when that was?
Are you asking me for the day?
If you recall the day?
I want to say it was just after the weekend. I can't.
Okay. Can you tell us, in terms of your knowledge of Jane Doe 5, had you met her before or recognized her from any prior interactions?
I recognized her as a member of our gym and there quite frequently.
And do you see her go to the gym with her husband on a regular basis?
Definitely.
So tell us how that interaction came about when you talked to her on this day after the weekend.
It came to my knowledge that she was working out and had been approached by Mr. Winslow in a way that she was uncomfortable with. And I was asked to speak with her and get details around that and for my help regarding that situation.
And was that, when you say that it came to your attention, was that in fact what the manager at the location, Brad Moser, informed you?
It was.
And in terms of what you knew going into that conversation, were you aware of any of the facts that had been reported at that point?
Yes, I was.
Was that based upon what Mr. Moser told you?
Yes.
And as far as you knew, was that based upon what he had learned from Jane Doe 5 and her husband?
Yes.
At that point, how was it that you knew that Mr. Winslow was the person who is being reported to have done these things?
There was a description, and I'm not really certain how to answer this.
Because let me ask it this way, and
Okay.
Your Honor, if I may leave.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Had you seen Mr. Winslow before, yes or no?
Yes.
Had you in fact had prior interactions with Mr. Winslow at that health club?
Yes.
Had you also had prior interactions with Mr. Winslow at previous health clubs, yes or no?
Yes.
Were you aware that Mr. Winslow had been a gym member at numerous gyms in North County area where you worked?
Yes.
And at least in terms of what you knew about Mr. Winslow at that point in time, is that part of the reason why Mr. Moser then asked you to talk to this woman?
Yes.
And by the way, we're not using the woman's first or last name, okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, next question.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. So you knew who Mr. Winslow is, who Mr. Winslow was, is that right?
Yes.
Now, when this information was brought to Mr. Moser's attention, did he ask you to follow up on it?
Yes.
What was the description of the person that was given that led you to know Mr. Winslow was the person they were describing?
His stature, his general looks, skin color, tattoos.
Do you remember how he was described first by his stature?
Tall man, younger.
Do you remember how his tattoos were described?
Arm tattoos, I think is all she said.
And in terms of skin color, do you remember how he was described?
She said that he looked like a mixed race, African American of descent.
And was that the information that you and Mr. Moser were then using to try to identify who was involved in this incident?
Yes.
And I asked that because I want to know, did Jane Doe 5 come forward and actually give a name of this person?
No, I don't think that she knew who he was.
When you spoke to her, did it appear to you as though she didn't know that person at all?
No.
Wait, you say no?
No, I don't think she knows. She didn't know who he was.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify the
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah, sorry.
Because the way the question was phrased in your answer, so it appeared to you as though she did not know who he was, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, good, next question.
Thank you. And after you were asked to speak to her, did she give you the description of the man?
Yes.
Did she in fact tell you that there hadn't been one incident but two?
The first time I spoke with her or the second time?
So let's ask about that. The first time you spoke to her, what did she tell you about?
Just that she was upstairs working out on our machines, that she was doing some exercises, and that he had been in front of her. I think she's...
Hearsay.
Prior consistent statement, Your Honor.
It's overruled, you can answer, you can continue.
Okay. That he had sat either in front of her or next to her and was doing a version of the exercise and displayed some things that she did not.
Did she describe to you what it was that he was doing that she did not like?
Yes.
What did she tell you he did?
That he was opening and closing his legs and kind of thrusting and showing his genitals.
Did she say whether he was erect or not?
She said it appeared that he was.
Do you recall whether she said that he was actually thrusting his erect penis in her eye, at her eye level?
I can't recall.
She was describing this as having taken place in the upstairs area, is that right?
Yes.
Now, when, as best you could recall, when did that conversation take place?
It was a couple of days after the incident occurred.
And did you talk to her on another occasion?
I did.
And do you remember when that took place?
Oh gosh, I couldn't speak with any authority. It was a while later.
Okay. When she was describing what he had done, did she say that there was a second incident where that took place in a different part of the gym?
Yes,
And where did that take place according to her?
in the hot tub.
And when she told you about the hot tub, was that the same conversation or a different conversation when she told you about what happened on the second floor, if you recall?
A different conversation.
When you talked to her about what happened in the hot tub area, what did she describe to you?
She told me that Mr. Winslow came out of the men's locker room with a towel around his waist that was slightly open, carrying a gym bag with him, and when he approached the hot tub, he didn't have any clothes on, and that he took it off, got in the hot tub, sat very close to her, and began rubbing himself and his leg on her leg, I think.
When she was describing that he was rubbing himself, did she actually tell you what he was doing?
She said that it looked like he was masturbating.
And that was based on what she saw, at least on that day?
Yeah.
After she had talked to you about these two incidents, what did you and Mr. Moser do?
We decided to tell our the owners, the operators of Crunch, and ask them for legal help with terming his membership. And
Did you go through the proper channels within your corporate structure in order to do that?
we did. They brought legal in immediately. We also called the sheriff's department and reported it to them, and those two talked and did their thing as well.
Okay. And in terms of the conversation that you had with Jane Doe number 5, do you recall whether or not you ever spoke to her husband at any point?
I did.
And was he the person who was actually coming forward saying that this needed to be reported?
He was.
When you spoke to him about what happened, did he ever say if he knew the person?
No.
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
The answer will stand. Cross-examination?
Thank you. Good morning. You testified that Jane Doe 5 reported to you the upstairs exercise incident a couple days after it happened, and that part of that report was that the gentleman had shown his genitals to her.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
We just need
Sorry.
yeses and nos for purposes of the court reporter.
Yes.
All right, next question.
She told you that he was wearing full pants when that happened, right?
No, I believe she said he was wearing shorts.
He was wearing shorts.
Yeah.
And she didn't tell you that he was, that his skin was exposed, the skin of his penis was exposed.
No, I believe she said it was.
She told you that the skin, that his bare penis was showing in the upstairs of the exercise room?
Well, can I explain?
Yes,
Go.
please.
Is that all right?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
So I think the way that she explained it, and it was that it was exposed through the pant leg, like she could see it. He wasn't wearing underwear, so with very loose shorts, it was available to see.
It was what? I'm sorry?
Available to see.
Okay, all right.
But
Now, keep in mind, are you asking her what she was told by Jane Doe number 5?
yes.
Okay, so do you understand the question?
Yes.
All right, it's not your understanding what she said, but we just want to know exactly what she told you.
Yeah, no, it's been a while, but to my recollection, that he was wearing shorts and she could see it. I don't know, she didn't say whether or not he moved it, just that she could see it. There were
Okay.
no underwear.
All right, next question.
But at that point, you took no action.
No, I let my owners know. I let my boss know.
Right after that first report?
Correct.
And then Ms. Doe reported a second incident to you that happened in the jacuzzi, is that right?
She reported it to my boss.
Who then asked you to follow
Correct.
up on it? And as part of that report, Jane Doe 5 told you that there was, that Mr. Winslow was in the that a man was in the hot tub with her, and that a second man was in the hot tub as well.
I don't remember her saying anything about a second man.
She never said anything about a second man.
No, she told me that her husband was coming to join her soon, but I don't recall anything about a second man being there.
Did you ask her if there was anybody else in the jacuzzi?
I did not.
Did you ask her if there was anybody else in the pool area?
I did not.
Would that have been important information for you to have to
Objection.
be able to verify the,
Let's finish the question. You can start the question over.
would that have been important information for you to have to be able to verify whether something happened in the jacuzzi or not?
Objection, relevance, this is her opinion.
Overruled. You can answer.
In hindsight, I guess if you're gonna go to a court case, sure, that would have been relevant. At the time, that's not where my head was.
Well, just to determine if what she says happened, would it have been helpful to have looked into whether there were other people in the same area?
Sure.
But that didn't happen.
Not with me.
At the Crunch Fitness location on El Camino Real, are there surveillance cameras inside of the gym anywhere?
There are.
Are there surveillance cameras inside of there's just one indoor pool and jacuzzi area, right?
Yes.
Are there any surveillance video cameras in that area?
You know, to my knowledge, no. But I also wasn't privy to all of our cameras.
Did you ever see any in the locker room areas, coming or going through the locker room areas?
No.
Where were the cameras?
There are cameras that are outside our building that were placed by Viasat, so it can see our entranceway and portions of our parking lot. We have it directly above our front desk check-in. We have them on some spots of the lifting floors. The pool areas, I couldn't tell you for certain.
So
You said they were placed by Viasat?
Yes,
Is that the business next door?
correct. They own our property and we rent the space.
I see. Okay, next question.
So there are cameras in the front check-in area,
Yes.
and in that front check-in area, right behind where the check-in desk is, there's a big wall
Yes.
that goes up,
Yes.
and there are two really large windows that look directly into the pool and jacuzzi area.
Yes.
Contained within that wall. Those two windows are probably maybe 20 feet tall. Is that about right?
I mean, I couldn't speak to how tall they are, but they go from floor to ceiling.
They go from floor to ceiling, and and the gym itself is 2 stories
Yes.
high.
Yes.
And the width of those windows are maybe 8 feet to 10 feet across.
I would say maybe 6 to 8 feet.
Maybe 6 to 8 feet across.
Yeah.
So so within the wall that's behind the big check-in area, there's these 2 big windows, and they look directly into the pool and jacuzzi area.
Yes, the windows are to the sides of the big wall, so it can't be seen by camera. I mean, you can see that there is a window there, but it doesn't point so that you can look through.
The cameras wouldn't go through the window and
Correct.
into the pool and jacuzzi
Correct.
area. Okay. So let me ask you about those windows there. Are they either totally or in part there so that staff members can easily look into the pool and jacuzzi area?
I couldn't speak to why they put them there, but if you go look, yes, you can easily see in there.
Well, a lot of staff members kind of congregate around that check-in desk. Is that right?
That's right.
Because that's where the members come to swipe their card and check in, right?
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay.
And they get their towels there to go work out.
Yes.
So there's a staff member there to help them do that.
Yes.
And there might be staff members there to check people in for personal training.
Yes.
So it's fair to say that at any given time during business hours, there's going to be quite a lot of staff members around that area.
Yes.
Okay. And so those staff members, while there's not cameras, those staff members can easily look through those, what I'm calling very, very, very large windows. Okay.
Yes.
And see what's going on in there.
If the staff member is not paying attention to the front, which is a door open and members facing the other direction. So our backs are frequently and should be most time to that window. So we are not, it's not our job to look and pay attention to that portion of the building.
Sure, you're there, the staff members are there to greet the guests as they walk in.
Correct.
But if there's no guests walking in at that time, maybe the staff members are just kind of milling around.
Objection calls for speculation.
Well, are you finished with the question? Go ahead and finish with the question.
If there's no one, if there's no members checking in, staff members may just be hanging around at the front desk area, waiting for members to come check in.
They may be, but often we have other things to do, like reports or looking our numbers or cleaning. So it's not often that we're just up there idle chit-chatting.
But if there was any kind of funny business in that pool or jacuzzi area, a staff member would be able to see it because it's a huge window.
Objection calls for speculation, not foundation.
Overruled. You can answer if you can.
I would say yes if you happen to be turned that way. Unfortunately, those walls and those windows are very thick. So even when somebody is trying to get our attention, they have to pound really loud. So unless you happen to be turned around looking there, there could be a party going on there. I'm not necessarily going to know it.
Okay, so you can't hear easily.
No,
you
they're
can't hear
really
easily
thick.
through the windows.
Yeah.
But the view through the window is not obstructed in any
Correct.
way. There's no blinds there.
Correct.
Or
Just a minute. Wait. We have to make sure the question is finished in its entirety before you answer. I know you know where she's going with the question.
Sorry.
You keep saying correct, but the court reporter can only take down one person at a time.
Got it.
So please make sure she finishes the question, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right.
that
go
was
ahead.
my
Can you
fault. I
repeat-
went quickly into the next question.
Go ahead and repeat the question.
The view through the windows are not obstructed in any way. Is that right?
That's right.
There's no blinds on the window.
No, there are not.
And there's no curtains on the window.
No.
And they don't get fogged up.
Occasionally, but not enough to obstruct a view.
Nothing further from this witness.
All right, any redirect?
Do you have to be looking through the window to see through the window?
Yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Any? Anything further based on that one question?
I didn't hear the question.
You want me to repeat it?
I can repeat it.
I have it right here. Question, do you have to be looking through the window to see through the window? And the answer was yes. So do you want to ask any follow-up questions based on that?
I would not.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, can this witness be excused?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. You're excused. Have a nice day. Thank you. Next witness?
People now call Brad Moser.
All right.
If you would, raise your right hand. You do solemnly state that the testimony you are about to give in the matter now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you would, please have a seat at the witness stand. And if you would, please state your name and spell your first and last name for the record.
Brad Moser, B-R-A-D, M-O-S-E-R.
Thank you.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Moser. Thank you for being here. The attorneys have some questions for you. We're going to start first with Mr. Owens, all right? Direct examination?
Thank you, Your Honor.
And can you scoot your seat forward too so you can speak with the microphone? There you go. Thank you. Go ahead.
Morning, Mr. Moser.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here. Can you tell us what you do for a living?
I'm the general manager at a Crunch in Carlsbad.
What is a crunch?
That's a gym.
How long have you been working there?
I've been with Crunch for 4 years. I've been the general manager there in Carlsbad for 1.5 years.
In February of this year, was it brought to your attention that an incident had happened involving a 77-year-old member who we're referring to by the name of Jane Doe 5?
Yes, sir.
Who was it that first contacted you regarding this incident?
It was her husband.
And we're going to refer to him as Robert C. Is that the individual who came and contacted you?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall the specific date that they came and brought this incident to your attention?
I don't recall the specific date.
Now, when you first spoke with Jane Doe 5's husband, Robert C., do you recall the nature of the information he gave you at that point?
I recall what he said to me, yes.
What was it that he told you had happened in relation to this initial report?
He pulled me off to the side. He said he needed to say something to me. He said his wife didn't want to say it to me, so he came to me. He said his wife was upstairs working out. An African American gentleman was exercising next to him. They were having small talk, and then he pressed his shorts, his hands against his shorts, and exposed himself and asked if she liked what he saw. And then the husband was pretty upset.
Understandably so. Now, did you speak directly to Jane Doe 5 after this initial report from her husband?
The first time, no.
When he made this initial report, did he identify the person by name or any other description?
All he said is an African American and with tattoos.
And when he gave you that information, did you have any idea who he may be referring to?
I did.
Is it fair to say that you, as the general manager of that Crunch Fitness, you're familiar with the different members who regularly go there?
Yes, sir.
For example, are you familiar with Jane Doe 5 and her husband, Robert C.?
Yes, sir.
Are they there pretty regularly?
Like clockwork.
Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
Yes, sir. Up to 2 to 4 hours a day.
Are they really there for 2 to 4 hours?
Older people have some time to spend.
They certainly use it at your gym, don't they?
Yes, sir.
Especially if one in Carlsbad, right?
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with a person by the name of Kellen Winslow?
Yes, sir.
You see Mr. Winslow in court.
Yes, sir.
Can you please state where he's seated and what he's wearing for the record?
Blue suit and reddish tie.
All right, the record will reflect identification of the defendant.
Thank
Next
you.
question.
How is it that you are familiar with Mr. Winslow as it relates to your Crunch Fitness gym?
I'm standing up at the front counter checking people in for most of the day, so I'm there from like 8:30 in the morning till 7:30, 8 at night. And I know the members when they come in, and I see most of them checking in.
Is Mr. Winslow someone who frequents your gyms regularly?
When he was working out, yes, he was there almost every day.
And did he have any particular regular routine, if you recall?
I don't recall any regular routine.
Well, he would be there almost every day?
Yes,
Sorry,
sir.
you guys recall? Can you describe the check-in process for someone who's going to access the gym as a member there?
So you're given a little key tag. You check in at the front counter. It has your photo there. Sometimes it gets busy up at the front counter, or people forget to bring their tag. Seeing most of the members, sometimes it's not unusual to wave somebody through if they don't have their tag or we're busy.
Is Mr. Winslow one of the members that you and the staff there recognize as being a regular member?
Yes, sir.
Is Mr. Winslow someone that you would normally wave through and just allow to come in if you didn't have his tag to check in?
We could have.
In terms of the general habits that some of your members have, you mentioned that Jane Doe 5 and Robert C. are there regularly. Do they regularly check in, to your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to show you a series of documents that have been marked as Courts Exhibits 168, 169, 170, 171. First, looking at Courts Exhibit 168, do you recognize what that is?
Yes, sir.
And that, don't use her true name. Go ahead.
That's our member.
And is that Jane Doe number 5?
Yes, sir.
And what's the document itself?
It's the check-in screen with their picture when they check in, so we know who's coming through, that someone's not using someone else's card tag.
And Your Honor, if I may alert the media to the display.
All right. The meeting's order not to show the next exhibit.
Showing you Courts Exhibit 168 for identification. Is that a standard member profile from Crunch Fitness Business Records?
Yes, sir.
And does that correspond to the member profile for Jane Doe number 5?
Yes, sir.
And that would be, and I understand that there are a number of portions that are redacted, that would be the identifying information for that member, is that right?
Yes, sir.
But does that show her photograph?
Yes.
Moving forward to the document that's next in order, Courts Exhibit 169 for identification, do you recognize what that is?
Yeah, that's their check-in history.
And is this the check-in history that corresponds to Jane Doe number 5 based on these records?
Yes, sir.
And looking at the check-in history, do you see that, at least for the time frame of this printout, it shows that the last check-in was on February 25th, 2019 at 12:24 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
And then it has a series of check-ins that would then predate that, is that right?
Yes.
And prior to the 25th was the last check-in on February 22nd, Friday.
Yes.
Talking about consistency, does it appear as though that she's there every Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the at least month and a half that's being shown there?
Like clockwork.
Now, moving forward to Courts Exhibit 170 for identification, do you recognize what this is?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
That's Kellen.
When you say that's Kellen, is there actually a photograph in the bottom left-hand corner that you recognize as being the defendant, Mr. Winslow?
Yes, sir.
Does that have at least his name that's visible and then some redacted personal information?
Yes.
Is that a member profile that's associated with his membership at Crunch Fitness based on your records?
Yes, sir.
Do you see that there's an email address that's associated with the account?
I don't see it on my
If I may-
paper, but usually we have address, email, and a primary phone number.
May I approach you?
Yes.
Just directing your attention to this section that's visible on the monitor. You see that there's an email address associated with the photograph?
Yes, sir.
And what's the email address that's listed on his member profile?
k2jwinslow@gmail.com.
And showing you Courts Exhibit 171 for identification, does this show the check-in history that corresponds to the member, Mr. Winslow?
Yes, sir.
Now, do you see that beginning at the top of this chart with the different columns and rows, does it show that on February 26th and February 27th of 2019 that there's an entry into the business records under the column alert message?
Yes, sir.
What does it state?
On the 26th, it says need photo, not allowed access.
And on the 27th?
Need photo, not allowed access denied, pending cancellation.
What was it that happened on February 25th that led to those entries being made?
Is this February 25th?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And then the entries that we were referring to first were February 26th and second February 27th. And what I'd like to know is what happened on the 25th that led to those entries being made in the next 2 days?
Actually, before you answer, can I see counsel sidebar off the record? All right. We did have an off-the-record discussion. You can continue with your question. You can ask your last question.
Thank you. So showing again, Court's Exhibit 171. What was reported to you on February 25th that led to the blocked access not allowing Mr. Winslow into the gym on the 26th and 27th?
That afternoon, the couple came up to me, their normal time, the time they would check in, and they were kind of discussing something. They asked to talk to me. I pulled them off to the side, so we weren't at the front counter so close. The wife was a little distraught, and she's like, I don't even want to tell you, but my husband's making me, so I'm going to tell you. And so she started telling me that she was in the jacuzzi. The gentleman that came out of the locker room, that they were talking to me about the first incident, exposed himself, got in the jacuzzi. So things were happening quick here. At the time of the day, there was a lot of people at the front counter. So I was having other members coming up to me and talk to me. So I grabbed my fitness manager, Shelley, and thought this needed a little bit of a softer touch with her. So I brought her over. She took an incident report. She was maybe with them for 10 or 15 minutes. And we filed the incident report, gave it to our attorney.
When you say your attorney, are you referring to corporate counsel for Crunch Fitness?
Yes, sir.
And to your knowledge, that day was the sheriff's department contacted regarding this incident?
I couldn't tell you, I don't know.
Okay. In terms of what they initially reported to you, did Jane Doe 5 have a name of the person who had been involved in the incidents at the gym?
The first time, no. The second time, I believe, yes.
And that was when you spoke to her a second time?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall speaking to her husband about knowing who they were referring to, based on the description they had given you?
The second time?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And when they had given you that description, how was it that you knew that they were referring to Mr. Winslow?
I wasn't concerned, but I was aware
So
when he became.
let me ask you this.
Why don't you can ask leading questions.
Thank you. When they brought this to your attention, had they given a physical description of the person that was involved in the first incident?
Yes, sir.
Did that physical description include that he was an African-American male and tall?
Yes, sir.
And that included that he had large tattoos on his arms?
They said he had tattoos.
Okay. And based upon that description, were you aware, generally speaking, of the various members that you have going into your gym?
Yes, sir.
Was Mr. Winslow someone that matched that description, even though it was generally given?
Yes, sir.
Now, on this second occasion, when you had this follow-up conversation with them, when you spoke to them about the person who had done that, did they describe him in any further detail?
They just referred to as him.
As being the same person?
Yes, sir.
And when you asked Ms. Traa to actually sit down and speak with her about the details of what happened, was that when the husband had pulled you aside on the second incident?
Yes, sir.
And did that take place on February 25th?
Yes, sir.
Once you had passed things up the corporate chain to Crunch Fitness Legal, you're not aware of then what happened after that?
No, sir.
Did the sheriff's department come and actually interview you at the health club and take some photographs?
Yes, sir.
And when you were speaking to the detectives, were you attempting to be honest and accurate based on what you recall?
Most definitely, yes, sir.
Are each of the exhibits that I just showed you, exhibits 168, 169, 170, and 171, are those business records that are kept in the ordinary course of business by Crunch Fitness?
Yes, sir.
And they would be entered at the time that the information is being provided, meaning it's essentially automatic on the check-in history. Is that right?
Exactly.
Does that require that the person actually physically check in with their key card?
For them to come into the club?
For
this to
the
be on
information
record?
to reflect?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Your Honor. If at this time I could read a stipulation of the record,
Well, okay, go ahead.
if that's all right.
Sure, yeah.
and it's entitled Trial Stipulation Regarding GPS Data. It's dated with today's date, signed by Ms. Barr, counsel for defendant Kellen Winslow II, and myself. And it states, the parties hereby stipulate.
Actually, let me just let the
course.
jury know. A stipulation, what I told you earlier, that what attorneys say is not evidence. There's two exceptions. One is when an attorney takes the oath and testifies here in court, which is not going to happen in this trial. The other exception is when the parties reach a stipulation. So they're going to read a stipulation into the record. Both sides agree to those facts, so you must accept those facts as being true. This stipulation that Mr. Owens is about to read has been marked as court exhibit number 159. So don't feel like you have to write down everything he's saying, because this document's going to go back with you into the jury room during your deliberations. All right? But you can write it down if you want. Go ahead, Mr. Owens. You can read the stipulation into the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. The parties hereby stipulate to the following. 1, Jane Doe number 5 checked in to Crunch Fitness in Carlsbad on the following dates and times. February 11th, 2019 at 11:32 a.m. February 13th, 2019 at 12:05 p.m. February 15th, 2019 at 12:15 p.m. February 22nd, 2019 at 12:05 p.m. Second, GPS global positioning satellite data from defendant's person shows defendant at the Crunch Fitness in Carlsbad on the following dates and times. February 11th, 2019 from 4:25 to 6:40 p.m. February 13th, 2019 from 4:40 to 6:53 p.m. February 15th, 2019 from 3:50 to 5:37 p.m. and February 22nd, 2019 from 3:27 to 5:22 p.m. That
All right.
ends the stipulation, Your Honor.
All right, do people agree to that stipulation?
We do.
And Ms. Barr, on behalf of the defendant?
Yes.
All right, then the jurors will accept those facts as being conclusively proven. All right, any additional questions?
No, thank you.
All right, cross. Ms. Barr?
I have longer than 4 minutes
Okay.
across.
Then why don't we go ahead and take our afternoon break now. Counsel, stick around. I want to put a couple things on the record that'll give us a chance to do so. So ladies and gentlemen, please remember the admonition. Leave your notebooks on your chairs and have a nice lunch. We'll see you back here right at 1:30. You can hang out here for a second. All right. All right, the record will reflect the jurors have left the courtroom and the door is closed. I called the unreported sidebar because it looked like this witness was having some trouble. I know you've been told not to mention the previous incidents that Mr. Winslow was involved in at the gym, correct? Right?
Right.
Okay, and I think Mr. Owens was asking you why you might have focused on Mr. Winslow, and it seemed to me that may have been based in part on your prior knowledge about the issues where he was caught hiding in the women's locker room and the changing room and so forth, correct?
At a different gym, Your Honor.
It's a different, right, a different gym. Were you aware of that or not?
Yes, because Shelley, that I work with, was at that other gym.
Right, right. So the court has ordered that information not to be brought out before the jury, so I'm going to order you not to mention it. I think you were in a hard place in answering one of his questions. So I just want to put on a record at sidebar, I inquired as to Mr. Owens as to whether or not he had admonished the witnesses. I could tell Ms. Traa had been admonished because she looked to the court and said she didn't know how to answer that question. So that's why I suggested that you lead him through that area. So again, don't mention anything about the past misconduct from the other gym. Okay?
Yes, sir.
And then, so, Ms. Barr, in your cross-examination, I'm going to suggest that you use leading questions as you're entitled to do, but be very careful. If you're ever in a position where you can't answer the question without referring to those other incidents or the other incident, just tell the court that you don't know how to answer that question, and we'll take that as a clue, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right.
And Your Honor, I would just state for the record that I did tell both Mr. Moser and Ms. Traa exactly that if one of the questions asked by either myself or opposing counsel called for the need to refer to it in order to honestly answer the question, then they needed to take a moment and look at the court, which is why Ms. Traa did so earlier.
Correct, and I picked up on that as well. So, all right, any further requests at this time?
No.
No? You have your witnesses lined up. Is this your last witness?
No, Your Honor, Nicole Edwards would be our next witness.
Okay, and then you have your witnesses ready to pick up right after that then, correct? Yes. Okay, we're in recess. We'll see you at 1:30. Well, your order back at 1:30.